Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel Arab. Today I feel African. Today I feel gay. Today I feel disabled. Today I feel a migrant worker. And I feel this, all this, because what I've been seeing and what I've been told, since I don't read, otherwise I will be depressed, I think. What I see brings me back to my personal story. I am son of migrant workers. My parents were working very, very hard in very, very difficult conditions. Not in Qatar, in Switzerland. I remember very well, and I'm not 150 years old, and I'm not speaking about apartheid in South Africa. I remember very well where the migrant workers in Switzerland were living, how they were living, what rights they had or they didn't have. And I'm not 150 years old yet, even if some think I am 150 years old. I remember as a child how migrant workers were treated when they wanted to enter the country, to look for work at the border. I remember what happened with their passports, with their medical checks, with their accommodation. And when I came to Doha, the first time after I was elected FIFA president, I went to see some of these workers' accommodations here. And I was brought back to my childhood.
Samindra, welcome to the live show at Football TV in Norway.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You are in Doha to cover the World Cup, the Football World Cup, and today you have attended a press conference with FIFA President Gianni Infantino. What kind of press conference was that?
I have to say, in my career as a football and sports journalist, it was one of the most jaw-dropping, at times shocking, often controversial and political press conferences that I have ever attended. Obviously, Qatar has been criticized quite a lot, but I think that Infantino feels emboldened by the fact that he knows he will get re-elected next year with the support of the vast majority of the national federations. And so he took this opportunity and this press conference not simply to repeat the talking points and the arguments of the host nation of Qatar that they have put forward in their defense, but also to attack the media. And so, he was going to deliver a few opening remarks, but those opening remarks turned into a bizarre, extraordinary 1-hour monologue, a diatribe of Infantino's own design. And there were so many jaw-dropping moments that it was at times even hard to just keep up and to process all of them. And everyone was listening intensely, but think the general sentiment was definitely that Infantino has lost the plot, definitely.
Can you explain or to us how the reaction was in the audience among the press corps? And he also got some questions. Did he answer the questions or not?
Yeah, so I think those who have followed press conferences by Gianni Infantino, they tend to be fairly repetitive. He rolls out a number of arguments that he's used over the years to talk up his reign as FIFA president. One of them is obviously that FIFA has been reformed, that FIFA is no longer toxic, that it's a clean organization. But today was somewhat different. There were new elements. He was much more aggressive in the way he dealt with the press, I think. And he did get some good, tough questions, in particular from UK journalists. After his monologue. Did he really answer them? Probably not, but then he never really does.
You said that he attacked the press. Can you give us some examples on what he said? And
I think one of the examples that struck me in particular was there was a moment in the press conference where he said that that FIFA will keep checking in on Qatar once the World Cup is over regarding treatment of migrant workers. And just off the cuff, he said, "Don't worry because you won't be here anymore." And that was quite striking. An open attack on the media. He also said and demanded that the media focus on the football, which again, that's not his role, or that's not, he should not say that. But it's also ironic given the fact that a few weeks ago he sent a letter to 32 finalists of the World Cup saying don't get dragged into political and ideological battles. Then he flies off to the G20 to do exactly that, play politics. Then he comes here and gives an opening press conference with so many political statements. And then he tells the press to focus on the football. It's just it shows you where we are with FIFA and where we are with Gianni Infantino at this moment.
it's one day until kickoff, Qatar, Ecuador. What is the atmosphere in Doha right now?
It has to be said that the atmosphere is one of a dead city. In the last 12 years, this city has been buzzing and bustling with activity. A lot of construction workers, in particular, getting this city, this country, and this infrastructure ready for the tournament. But now, as the tournament is here, those construction workers are obviously no longer in view. They are no longer part of the street view, to present a clean image to the rest of the world. So it's very quiet because there are not too many fans yet. When I arrived at the airport 2 days ago, it was very smooth. There were no queues at no point whatsoever. And even going around the city yesterday evening at the fan zone, it was hard to spot foreign fans. I've seen some Mexicans and some Argentinians. One suspects that today and especially tomorrow that will pick up. But there is very little atmosphere, and that kind of fits with this World Cup at the moment, and it's telling also about Qatar and Doha.
It's fair to say that this will be a political World Cup. What should we expect in the future month during this World Cup? Will there be any controversies? Will particular games be of more important than others, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it will definitely be the most controversial World Cup in modern history, or at least since 1978 in Argentina. Gianni Infantino himself has made it even more political by repeating the arguments of the host nation and by asking players and coaches not to speak up. In terms of the next month, I think there are a few elements or teams to look out for. I think one is obviously Iran in Group B. Will there be massive protests at the stadium? 4 years ago, the Iranian diaspora came in huge numbers to the Russia World Cup. In the opening game against Morocco, there were 40,000 Iranians in the stadium. And at that time, the big talking point was that women were not allowed inside Iranian stadiums to watch men's football. And at the time, we spoke with a lot of Iranian women from the diaspora. However, now the main theme is, of course, women's rights at large in Iran. So you wonder whether the diaspora will be here in huge numbers on Monday to protest. And remember, Qatar and Iran have very tight diplomatic and business relations. Will Qatar try and ensure and stop those potential protests? That's one thing to look out for. Another political thing to look out for is FIFA have promised that Israeli and Palestinian fans will fly together to this World Cup. As of this moment, however, there has been no direct flight from Tel Aviv to Qatar, and it's also unclear what FIFA considers to be a Palestinian. Is that someone who really lives in Gaza, the West Bank, or do they also include Arab Israelis, which makes for a whole different equation? So I think it will be very interesting to see how many actual Palestinians who live in Gaza and who live in the West Bank make it to the World Cup? And will the Arab world at some point rally behind Palestine, waving the Palestinian flag at the World Cup? Who knows? Perhaps. So there are a lot of there is a very interesting political background definitely around a number of topics at this World Cup, and I'm sure that we'll get to see more developments as the tournament progresses.
Samindra Kunti, thank you for giving us your immediate reaction after the press conference and also your kind of predictions for the World Cup. We keep in touch and have a nice day in Qatar.
We keep in touch. Thank you very much. A pleasure to be on.